Kubala.
Ilizwe.
Kubala.
Ilizwe.
Ziona
is here.
So this video is going to be about the power structure of the kingdom, leaving out the children, of course, but just including one child, which would be the crown prince. His name is Chaka. And it will also go into the wives of King Atehene. I said it correct. So we're going to talk about the wives of the king. Who are they? How did he seduce them? And the power struggles of the inner court of Kubala. Right now, we are going to talk about King Atehene and his court. So King Atehene is the descendant of King Solomon. To him, he is the descendant of King Solomon. So do not shoot the messenger. This is what was said, and I'm just saying what was said. So he believes that he is the descendant of King Solomon, and his goal and objective as King Atehene is to create a new world order where black people are supreme, and that he rules all, and all the wealth is returned to the land of Kubala and his native ancestors, who were the Moors of Scotland. So at the top we have King Atehene. At the bottom, we have John Fagan, the hand of the king. And John Fagan, throughout this entire time that I have seen John Fagan, he looks like he wants us to save him.
I am John Fagan. The black people are the true Jacobite. God save the King of the North.
That's how it is. It looks like the king has his hands to him and he's commanding him to say something at a threat of his life, succumb into some supernatural power. But John Fagan is there and he is supposed to be the hand of the king. And below him is Queen Nandi. And the reason why I put Queen Nandi below John Fagan is because although she's the queen, she has beliefs that women are below men and women are weaker than men. One of the areas that she said women are weaker than men in on her blog is intellect. Now, I will get into all of her ideologies in another video. Who is Queen Nandi? What does she believe? But right now, I'm just explaining why I decided to put her below John Fagan. Right after John Fagan is her, and below her is the crown prince, Chaka. Sorry. So below her is Crown Prince Chaka. Now, it's really sad because I think Chaka is not really very big. He's not a big boy. I think he's maybe a toddler. And he was taken away from Nandi and he is now in the custody of social services. However, as I said before, you're living in the woods. So what do you expect? You have no running water. You have no electricity. You don't work anywhere. How are you going to get paid? How are you going to manage to take care of this child properly? So we have Chaka, and below Chaka, I believe, is where we have the different wives. Now, let's talk about the wives, because it has come to my attention through my research that King Atehene is not new to this. He is true to this. And the two Lady Safis and Queen Nandi are not the first to fall into this called Kubala conundrum. He has had about 5 wives prior to Lady Safi, who sadly passed on, and Kaura Taylor. So the wives that he had in this Kubala situation, Queen Nandi, Shulamite, Zelfir, Hagar, Aaliyah Johnson as Lady Safi, and below all of them is this handmaiden called Kaura Taylor. Classification gets really complex, I would say, when you think about the Kuabala Kingdom and how they view women. So the Kuabala Kingdom, they believe that when women come into the home, they will marry into the king and queen's household. So the queen will always be above them, and they should know their place, and they should know that it is an abomination in their religion, in their perspective, that second, third, fourth wives after the queen, it's an abomination if they are treated better than the queen, if he gives them gifts that are better than them. Now, we know Kofi ain't got no money, but we also do know that he would pretend and cosplay riches. Nandi, on her blog as Jean Gasho, she spoke about the fact that it's an abomination when men give all their wives the same gift. So we understand that they do not have the same hierarchy, and that might show that Jean is actually very controlling. The feeling of being superior, the feeling of being the superior woman, the chosen woman, the woman above all other women in this Kubala scenario. So that's what I learned. And basically, Jean Gasho breaks down on her blog that there are different levels to courting the king. So of course you have the queen, and nobody could really be in the place of the queen. But below that, you have his wife. So you could be a first wife, second wife, third wife. You have handmaiden to the queen and consort. And the layers go like this. She said that first, you are a handmaiden to the queen. So you see there that when women marry into this Kubala situation, they are the handmaiden to Nandi. Nandi wants to be seen and sought after first and foremost. Your first job is to be her handmaiden. Anything else after that is secondary, but your job as a second, third, fourth, fifth wife, sixth wife is to cater to her needs. So she said handmaiden first, then concubine. And she said concubine is a second, it's like a wife, but it's not like a respected wife. And then after being a concubine, she said your duty as wife comes in last, and wife is to the king, meaning that what Nandi's saying is that my duty is to be a wife to my man, but when you come in here, your duty is to me and to be basically my personal servants for the duration of your time here. And to me, I feel like now that kind of all makes sense, and I believe that Nandi is directly benefiting from this whole setup. In her head, she had this fantasy. She wants to be served, catered to, respected, and you could come in and you could play house if you want, but you need to respect that hierarchy. And so I think that it's more like a pyramid scheme. It's like a pyramid scheme. So everybody else who comes in there, they're gonna think that you're gonna fall in love. The king's gonna love you. 10, 12 wives, and we all get love and you get that affection, when truly the only person who's really benefiting is King Kofi because of all the puppy that he's getting, and Nandi because she's getting waited on hand and foot. And throughout Shulamite's blog, so we're gonna get to Shulamite, but in Shulamite's blog, she actually kind of detailed how the king comes in and he sleeps with her, and it's almost like if he sneaks away from Nandi when Nandi is fast asleep to like have sex with her. So you see clearly that Nandi is saying there's a hierarchy. This is why the distinction was so important for them when it came to Aaliyah Johnson versus Akura Taylor. So Aaliyah Johnson was the second wife of King Kofi. Of course, he is, I believe, legally married to Queen Nandi, but Aaliyah Johnson was his second wife. And second wife, of course, based on Nandi's hierarchy, meant that first and foremost, she was Nandi's servant. She was a handmaiden. Secondly, she was a concubine to the king. And then lastly, that relationship with the king was, and that love, that wife and husband relationship was the last thing that should be on her mind when she was there. So her duty is to fulfill Nandi's desires. And if there's any time left afterwards, you could do whatever you want with the king. Of course, Nandi would be occupying most of his time because remember, her relationship with the king is the first thing on her schedule. And that's why I called it a love pyramid scheme. Everybody who comes in after is just going to have less and less and less of the time while buying into this fantasy. Most of my information that I got for this segment and this video was from Shulamite. Now, Shulamite is, one of those ancient names that they keep giving all of the ladies that come around. Nandi and Atehene get together and they name these women. And they tell you why they named them, how they named them. I'm just going to tell you who I remember. So Zelfir is named because her name starts with Z. She's from Zimbabwe, and it was like in a precarious time with COVID, and apparently that name in the Bible has something to do with a precarious time, like uncertainty or fragility. Nandi explained was Zelfir's status of coming to the UK to join them and be their wife. It was really up in the air and it was very fragile, so that's why she named her that. We had Hagar. They named Hagar because she is supposed to be the gateway into the wealth of the Asians, kind of a thing, of the people who were cast aside or something like that was still blessed by God. So I don't know why Shulamite was named Shulamite, but what's most important and beneficial to our discussion is her story. So as you know, Jean Gasho had a blog, and Jean was telling us in around 2025 July that she was also lonely. She didn't have anybody to talk to. And one thing I noticed about Jean's blog is that every time you see Kofi, when she needs something from Kofi or she wants to spend time with Kofi, if it's not about Smex, he is very much not interested. Because she would say she would try to talk to him about his day and just like because like she's lonely, and he would never listen to her. He would never listen to her. And she said that eventually she felt like it might have had something to do with the fact that he's a man, she's a woman, and he is not going to be interested in anything she says. And honey, let me tell you something. If a man is not interested in anything that you're saying, he does not like you. It has nothing to do with the fact that you're a woman. Because at the end of the day, I think we communicate with people who we feel like we have affinity to, and we want to get closer to them. So really and truly, if someone you care about is extending that olive branch, the least you could do is pretend to care and try to understand and reach them halfway. But he doesn't. And she would say, like in her blog, she would write that she'd ask him, honey, are you listening? And he'd say, yeah. But in her head, she knew he wasn't, and she would stop. Shulamites Story is one of ultimate desperation. I have never seen a woman so oblivious to how she is coming off in her blog, and the fact that she may have been used and likely could have been scammed for years by this couple before she decided to join their ranks. Okay, now Shulamite started off this blog, and she was encouraged by Nandi to write this blog. One thing about Shulamite is we don't know what she looks like, because she wants to be very private. She never showed her face, and so Nandi seems to be pushing her all the time to like reveal yourself, be proud of yourself. And she had said in one of her blogs that she would do it in her own time. So Shulamite, we learn a lot about them, their inner workings from this blog. And in this blog, Shulamite states that she knew Kofi. She knows Kofi from university. Apparently they would go to school there together, and she knows him from way back when. She moved from university to work in the UK, and she said she felt so lonely in the UK, so that when Kofi reached out to her in his travels back and forth to and from the UK, he would reach out to her. So when he reached out to her, he would always invite her to meet up. And she said that they never got the chance to, but she said he was really cool. Like, he was a really cool dude, a cool cat. And so eventually he, on his third trip back and forth, since he reached out to her, she decided that she had to meet him. And what happened was that on that night when they met, it was very magical. He kissed her, and she felt like the world just dissolved around her, and she felt like this was the guy. This was the one that she wanted to spend the rest of her life with. And of course, in true drama style, he pushed away and told her, like, he's apologizing for the kiss, and he never spoke about it again. So she really felt enamored with him after that night. However, she found out online that he had a family. Of course, we know who he married, Queen Nandi. And she said, like, she pulled up his photo online, and she saw him with his face powdered with his children. And she confronted him, and she said, do you have a family? And he said, yes. She was like, does your wife know that we kissed? And he kind of deflected and would say, talk to you tomorrow. So that's where part 1 of her blog, How I Met My Husband, that's how it ends. Now, part 2 of the blog really just made me jump out my skin. And I actually, when I was researching this, I had to stop, pause, and just compose myself. Because what do you mean he stopped talking to you and you felt used because he had your bank card? What do you mean? You met this guy like one time, and after the one time of the kiss, what happened in that space that made you send your bank details to this man? So she goes on to say that she said he had her bank card and her bank information because his back and forth from Ghana to the UK, he's trying to set up his permanent stay, but it's not finished yet. So he needed her like bank details to do some e-commerce business that he had, right? So she gave him her bank cards, and she said she felt so used when she realized he cut her off, cut communication, but still had her bank card. She said, however, during that time where he never really used to talk to her, on the odd occasion that he did reach out, it was always for money. Every time it would be about 300 pounds, 400 pounds that he would ask for, and she would give it to him. she would give it to him. So I don't understand where this is going and why I should feel sorry for her, but I am actually just so embarrassed and disappointed. But I do understand why this happened, because she felt like she had lost her chance on love. So Shulamite, the one that we know as Shulamite, she apparently, when she went to university, yes, Kofi was there in Ghana, but she wanted to marry this Ghanaian boy. And apparently, from whatever tribe she was from, they didn't like that arrangement, her family. So she had to let him go, and he married somebody else. So when she felt like she saw Kofi again, he's a Ghanaian, this was her second chance at love. So she felt like that was her second chance at love. And maybe that's a reason for why she's giving him all of her money and easy access. But she even sent Queen Nandi money to her account for Kofi. And she stated that what broke her heart was that he was not using this money for an online business. Now, remember when I had said in the first video I had done on these people right here that Nandi was showing off that her husband was wealthy, that he had money, but he had nothing? This makes me feel like Nandi, that all of that money that I told you Nandi bought those shades for him, he was so cool, that those were his shades. They were no, you know what I said in that first video? This makes me think that money wasn't even Nandi's money. This makes me think that was Shulamite's money, because Shulamite said she realized that he wasn't spending it on his businesses, but instead he was spending it on luxury hotels and doing as if it was his own money. She said that when she saw this, she almost asked for her bank card back, but she held herself back. And I think this is just the epitome of desperation, and this is why people do not be desperate, because when you are desperate, people will smell it and they will take advantage of it, because there is no way this is normal and healthy behavior. But then again, who do we find falling into the pit of these cults? It's always somebody that has some unresolved pain inside of them. And her unresolved pain was that she felt like she lost love and she was never going to find love again. So when Kofi came along, she thought that this is my one in a chance opportunity. I don't care if I have to share him. And the reason why I said that might have been her thought process was because Kofi had sent her a song that made her think in her head that he might have wanted to be more than a friend. And he invited her to some award ceremony that he was having. And that's when she said she saw Queen Nandi. She was so beautiful. She was more beautiful in person than she was in her pictures. And she was so kind. And that was it. She said, you know what? He had a happy family. Have a nice life. Then later he sent out a message, and I will put the poster here. And this advertisement basically states that, you know, he is looking for a second wife, and those who want should apply by sending £500, and basically that will allow them to have a virtual date with the king to see if they are acceptable. So Shulamite paid the £500. Yes, she did. She paid the £500, got the virtual date, and then after a couple of days, he responded and said that he would be very interested in taking her as his second wife. She said she was so overjoyed. She said that he invited her to his home. They met, and as soon as she saw Queen Nandi, she just dropped on the ground in front of her and stated that, you know, this woman looks like a queen. She looks like a queen. She dresses like a queen. And so she said, like, I need to serve her because she just has such queenly energy. You know, Queen Nandi, she loves being flattered. So that's what made her like, oh my God, I love Shulamite, because Shulamite, in my opinion, was Nandi's favorite sister wife. And Nandi said that she was just so excited to have like a sister there, and it was so great, and it was so nice. Shulamite became their living chef. Remember, handmaiden to the queen first, getting love from Kofi afterwards. So she had a degree in hospitality and catering. And so she said that she felt like her life was fulfilled, that she could do what she loved with people who she loved. And she said, my life has been fulfilled. I finally have my husband. That's what she said. And my heart hurt when I heard that, because I'm like, this is the exact type of mindset that you would find with people who find themselves in these types of predicament, where their value does not come from within them. They feel like they have to prove or attain something to be valuable. Like, it's sad, but this is what happens. And so she was basically living her dream, living this fantasy, playing house with these people. And her family was not approving of it. Some of them were, because I guess polygamy exists in some parts of African society, but other people were not happy with her decision in her family. And she said, you know what, for the last time will I allow people to keep me from love, because remember, it happened before. It happened before when she had her boyfriend, her Ghanaian boyfriend, who they didn't allow to marry her because they didn't feel like he was from the right tribe. So she was happy. So the second blog talks about my first night with the king, and it speaks about the fact that she had her first encounter with the king. She kind of gave a description of the family life in Kuabala Kingdom when they actually had a home before they were evicted. And she claimed, like, the children, they were so well behaved. And after the kids were put to sleep, she spent some time with Queen Nandi, watching a show with ice cream. Queen Nandi said, whatever she was eating is like a treat for when her children go to sleep. And then after Queen Nandi went to sleep, King Kofi went to sleep. She said she remained on the couch and she was watching TV, and then she fell asleep. So she said she heard footsteps at 3 a.m. and she said it was the king, and he came and he woke her up and took her into the room, and she said she closed the door, and that was her first night with the king. And I felt like, okay, that sounds very much like you're sneaking around doing something like you felt like you shouldn't be doing. And I'm kind of on the lookout for any more information that could confirm my suspicion that anytime there has to be any romantic situation, intimacy outside of Queen Nandi, I think Queen Nandi has this thing where she does not want to be aware of it. And so Kofi kind of has to sneak around and do his due. Some king. So Shulamite basically stated that King Kofi had told her that he wanted another wife, and this another wife was going to be an Asian woman, and they described her in the blog as an Ishmaelite. So Jean and Shulamite now at this point in time have blogs running. Both of them honestly speak very similarly, so I don't know what you want to do with that information, but both of them had blogs at the same time. And Queen Nandi also spoke about this Asian lady that Kofi had said, I want to marry her. Now, from what I could pick up from the blogging, is that Hagar might have been Hindu, because you hear Shulamite talking about things like Hagar's religious beliefs being reincarnation, that she was vegetarian, so she may have been a Hindu. So Hagar was, according to Shulamite and Nandi, this Asian lady. And based on how Nandi perceives the world, it's very interesting, because she sees things as the lines are demarked by race. And she has always said that Black women are the epitome of beauty, and that no man who is rebuilding the Kuabala Kingdom or Solomon, the kingdom of Solomon or ancient Israel, none of them would even think about being with anybody who wasn't Black. And the thing is, she also stated that Solomon, most of his concubines and wives were Black. Let me explain how Kofi is such a player. So Shulamite and Queen Nandi are really close, because Shulamite is basically Nandi's number one bootlicker. And Hagar comes in, this Ishmaelite woman, and Nandi doesn't really like her. I could tell from the writing she is being cordial because of her place as queen, right? But she doesn't really like her as much as she likes Shulamite. She talks about Shulamite all the time, and Shulamite takes pictures of her and tries to write like her and tries to copy her style. So she's like, I know Shulamite really loves me, and she's like, I don't mind her copying my style when she doesn't try to upstage me. And she was like, but I know that that's not her intention, because she looks up to me as her queen. Hagar, on the other hand, not so much. So Hagar seemed like she was very opinionated, and she would try to stir up strife between Queen Nandi and Shulamite, because she would say that Shulamite does not respect Queen Nandi. So she was like a little shit stirrer. And one day Shulamite came and asked Kofi on one of their romantic strolls, why did you marry us? All these three women. And this man says that he needs to marry these 3 queens to rebuild the kingdom of Kubala. So then he goes on to say essentially that the only reason he married Hagar, this Asian woman, was because she is the gateway to the riches of the Asians, the children of Ishmael, who God blessed, because he said most of the riches are in the hands of Ishmael, and that he marrying her is kind of like a marriage of alliance, and it's not about love. He says that Nandi is his queen, and without her he would be nothing. So I think like Nandi is his marriage of love, so he's still putting her on top of all of them. And then he says that she is also his gateway to Ghana, because the riches of Ghana was something taken away. Now listen to me, you could read this in their blog, Shulamite's blog. Shulamite disappeared and she stopped writing, so I think she left the cult, because I only see like 3 of them now. Even John Fagan, I don't think he's there anymore. But you could tell this man was playing in all of their faces. And Queen Nandi was actually the shit stirrer and ringleader of it all. Like, don't feel sorry for Queen Nandi. She and Kofi are husband and wife in arms. I would say scammers in arms, because that's how it appears. It really does appear that they took this woman on a joyride, telling her to send them money for things that they weren't even gonna buy. That's how it seems, at least. And Nandi and Kofi have this system and they love how it runs. So accordingly, Hagar's stay in the home started to get really toxic, which makes sense. I believe Queen Nandi might have felt some jealousy, some really strong jealousy towards her, because I don't believe people who genuinely love themselves talk down on any other person, any other group of people, any other race to big up themselves. I don't believe that. So I truly believe that Nandi does have some kind of low self-esteem. And so she has to pit women against each other and lower than her, so that she could feel a synthetic, inflated sense of self-worth. So Nandi is all praises for Shulamite. She cleans the home, it's spotless, she's cleanly, and she basically cooks for them and makes massive meals for her, and she gets along with the children. Hagar, it would seem, not so much. And eventually, because Hagar also was a vegetarian, and Queen Nandi and Kofi are big meat eaters, so that didn't work out too well. Plus, I feel like they knew she had reservations about this religion, and so Hagar basically had confided in Shulamite that she was unsure of how her religion and her core beliefs really blends with this new spirituality that Kofi and Queen Nandi have introduced her to. So eventually Kofi told her that she needed to leave the family, and so he cast her out, and that was the end of Hagar. When it comes to Zelfir, she was supposed to make it to the UK, but I don't think she did. And of course, you know the story of Aaliyah Johnson and Akura Taylor. So that is the end of today's videos. If you love the video, remember to like, comment, and subscribe. I would really want to hear your perspectives on the video, and of course make sure to interact with my community post, because I post there often, and just let you guys know if videos are late like this one, or if I need ideas. So in any case, see you guys soon.